The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small, and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family, and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the three hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to the Kulturecast. I am your host, Chris Stachiw, and I am joined by TV and movie writer, my good friend. He's been on the Kolchak tapes several times, Mr. Richard Hatem.
Sir, hello. Good to talk to you.
This man's calling me
God.
sir. We haven't even gotten 30 seconds into the podcast, and I'm already being called sir. We're in for a bumpy ride tonight.
Do we need to catch people up on what I was doing while waiting for you to call? Or
drinking heavily?
I guess they'll pick up on that. But
so,
that's the right frame of mind.
So, a couple things before we start talking about the film Lost Souls from 2000. This is your first time on the Kulturecast, so I give everybody a little bit of time to kind of introduce themselves, a little bit of an idea, their background. So, Richard, you work in the industry, so what have you done? What have you written? What would people know that you've done?
Well, it's funny. I wrote a couple of movies that got made sort of around this era. One was before this movie, the movie we're about to discuss.
Movie in quotation.
Right. I wrote Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. And that came out in 95, and then in 2002, a movie came out called The Mothman Prophecies, and I wrote that one.
Which is, a film that I have nothing but the praises to sing of, because I love that movie. And it's not just because we're friends. I swear to God.
You have no idea the chance I took claiming credit for that. I just, because, you're the mean guy, and I my attack, so I wasn't sure what to say.
So here's the thing. Here's the funny thing. I might be the mean guy on the Kolchak tapes, but that's because I'm a co-host. This is my podcast, so I'm not the mean guy here. I'm just the...
Wait, are you saying that you and Probuscus do like a good cop, bad cop, good podcaster, bad podcaster?
Did you just call him Probuscus or Probiscus?
Yeah. Isn't that his handle, Probuscus? Isn't that his thing?
I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yes, at Proboothcast is our good friend Mike White, the host of the Kolchak Tapes, a podcast that I just participate on.
Oh my God! Wait! Oh, I didn't I'm learning. I figured I'd do no research and just walk in blind. like a total asshole. So here I am. But look, let's put it this way. I had a lot of fun on that podcast. Let's see how this one goes.
Yeah. So now that you know kind of who Richard is, and you didn't mention what you work on now.
Now I am a big old writer on a show called Titans, which is on DC Universe. And we're airing our second season right now. We just did episode 7. Episode 8 comes up this Friday. So the minute you subscribe, you get all the episodes up to the most recent one, and then there'll be 5 more after this for a season 2 of 13 episodes. I wrote 3 of them. I'm super excited about the episodes that I wrote, and I co-wrote the finale of season 2. So if you guys watch all of season 2, stick around for the finale. It's going to be epic.
So let me ask you something. As someone who hasn't watched the show but knows about something that's going on in the show right now, whose idea was it to redo the does Jason Todd live again thing from the comic books? Whose idea was that?
Well, Jason Todd is, like sort of a fan favorite from the comic books, obviously, and from, comic book history, and certainly a favorite of Jeff Johns, who's one of the creators of Titans.
And if you don't know comic book history, in the late 80s, early 90s, they gave the readers a choice, does Jason Todd live or die? Like, actually gave the readers the fate of the character is in your hands.
Right. Well, but the interesting thing about DC, I think, and about Jeff Johns in particular, and Warner Brothers, I mean, the whole thing, they're very interested in just like, every version is a new version. So the characters are the same characters. They have the same basic personality traits, but the storylines don't owe anything to the past. So if 2 characters hated each other in the past, they may not hate each other now, or, whatever. We can sort of go our own way. There's, with Jason Todd, and I'm not a comic book guy, so it's kind of weird that I'm writing on this show, but, all the writers have been encouraged, just write original stories based on who these characters' personality traits are and see what happens. So, Jason Todd has turned into this amazing character on our show, played by the brilliant Curran Walters, who's just so great. I mean, he is a living advertisement for his own character. He is the character in so many ways. That being said, the character's trajectory in the comic books, the known path is very, very dark. So, and we all know that on the show. So we're figuring out how we're going to approach that.
So you don't want to take credit for it, is what you're telling me.
I can't take credit for anything except if you see an episode that has my name on it, you can come to me with your complaints. Let's put it that way. Okay, fans?
Yeah, you don't want to give them that. You don't want to give people power like that. Come on. Come scream at me on Twitter.
I'm easy to find on Twitter at Richard Hatem, and just hit me up and say, hey, that episode you wrote, I loved it. Or, man, that really sucked. I will be prepared for either reaction. It's really more the second one, because that's the story of my career. But anyway.
Oh, don't say that. Again, I love Mothman Prophecies, so.
Well, we should, we could talk about that. We could do an episode about that if you want one.
Let's have Richard on a podcast about the movie he wrote.
Well, I mean, I won't be reviewing it, but I can answer some questions.
That's true. And honestly, you know what? I think that is in order. However, as much as I would love to talk about Mothman Prophecies, honest to God, I would love to talk about anything but this movie. We are going to be talking about a horror movie from 2000 called Lost Souls. I guarantee you've never heard of it.
I believe in God and the devil. In fact, I know that they exist.
You know why we're here.
I'm going in with you.
You wouldn't last 5 minutes. Once you face evil, true evil, you discover something. Peter Kelson, I assume you're familiar with the case of Henry Birdson.
Yeah, what's that got to do with you?
At the exorcism, Birdson boasted that Satan was about to take over the body of a man.
He
You are that man, Peter. I know you don't believe me.
Well, why should I?
I was possessed once.
The time of transformation is near.
They've contaminated you.
What happened to me?
You have no idea. Hello?
Watch out.
They had their 2,000 years. Now it's our turn.
I'm always scared that I could be one of them.
So it is directed by Janusz Kaminski, Janusz Kaminski, oh my God. I mean, he's a cinematographer.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Photographer to fucking everybody. Steven Spielberg, Cameron Crowe, everybody. He's worked a lot with Spielberg. He's worked with Spielberg on Schindler's List. You may have heard of that movie. Amistad, Saving Private Ryan, War Horse, Lincoln, Bridge of Spies. He worked on the last 4 Spielberg movies, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
8 Spielberg movies?
Yeah, look, obviously this is a tremendously talented man.
No one's going to deny that because we can't.
Look, it's not going to stop me from shitting all over this movie. But...
Well, that's a different story. Director on this film, cinematographer 99% of the time.
Yeah. And these are, it might be worth a 2-minute discussion on the difference between a director and a director of photography for people who might not know. And believe me, I didn't know until I started working in this business kind of what that meant, because I always just figured, a director is the one setting up the camera and saying, here's the shot, here's how I want the lighting, here's what it's going to be. And it sort of is, but the director of photography conceptually comes up in collaboration with the director, a look for the movie. But it is informed by the director, and then the director of photography brings his skill to carrying out those directives. And in any successful collaboration, clearly Spielberg is one of them, there's a meeting of minds, they enjoy each other's company, because God knows they're together forever on a set. And they come up with something they both like, and they figure it out, and when the movie's over, they both feel creatively fulfilled. But that's very different than directing. So when a director of photography, or really anybody, a writer, an editor, whoever, moves from whatever their little bailiwick is into the role of director, suddenly things change. And I think we're witnessing a little bit of that in Lost Souls.
Oh, I don't know if that's all we're witnessing, because Jesus Christ, this movie is... Okay, so aside from the fact that Janusz Kaminski is a talented director of photography, and we'll get into whether or not he's a talented director, the film stars Winona Ryder, it stars Ben Chaplin, so is Philip Baker Hall, John Hurt, Elias Koteas. This movie is not lacking in quality actors. However,
what about Philip Baker Hall.
No, Philip Baker Hall, who's, Jesus Christ, we'll even get to that whole thing. So the entire movie, while there is a plot on IMDb, I honestly don't know if I could really tell you the plot of the film. The film's IMDb plot claims that a Catholic teacher meets an atheist journalist whom a group of Catholics and priests believes has been chosen to be by the devil to be the Antichrist. I guess that's the plot. I'm assuming you've never seen this before, Richard, so what did you think watching Lost Souls, a film that you may not have even realized existed, and a lot of people who are listening to this right now probably didn't either. What did you think of the film?
Well, I was only vaguely aware of it. Like, when you mentioned it and I heard that Winona Ryder was in it, I think I sort of was like, oh, I kind of remember that, because it was during an era where I was working on stuff. Well, I mean, like Mothman, but also various other projects that were sort of about faith and things like that. So I probably did know about it, but I got to tell you what was most sort of disappointing, frustrating, demoralizing, whatever, is that this is a movie whose story is a little problematic. Now, and I'll explain what I mean in terms of, I worked on a show called Damien, a few years ago. I don't know if you remember that.
That was the Omen TV show, right?
Yeah. And
which, by the way, I never saw it, but I mean, I remember there was like a massive campaign after the first season of the show to save the show.
Yeah. And there was some really good stuff about that show. Glenn Mazzara ran it. He's a great guy. Barbara Hershey was in it. And there was a lot of stuff to recommend it, but I can tell you from a writer's point of view, which then translates into a viewer's point of view, because, when you watch a movie, you're writing it as you watch it. Anybody is.
Right.
You're watching it going, well, okay, so maybe this is going to happen. Maybe that's going to happen. Given the information I've got, what am I anticipating happening next? Blah, blah, blah. Here's the difficulty about movies where a character learns they are the Antichrist. You're now walking down a very narrow narrative alleyway, because it's almost equivalent to a character finding out they're dying of cancer during the movie. It's like, oh, so there's one outcome for this, and any alternative outcome...
One of two, right? One of two outcomes, or just one?
Well, one of two. One being they are indeed dying of cancer / the Antichrist.
Right.
Or two, no, we got the files mixed up. You're actually not dying of cancer / oh, wait a second. There's a spell we can do on you that will beat the devil, which unfortunately will always feel like a little bit of a cheat, because whatever attraction these sort of stories have, I think the attraction is, oh shit, what if you found out you were the Antichrist? And by the way, that's not the story of The Omen. The Omen, the movie, it's a very different story.
Yeah, because Damien is the son of the main character, not the main character.
Exactly. So what you've got is...
The story is not from the son's perspective.
It's not from the son's perspective. It's from the perspective of someone else. Okay, so now think about that for a second. So it's the perspective of Gregory Peck going, my child, I have been given, over the course of a 2-hour movie, overwhelming evidence he is the Antichrist. And now what this movie is about is, I think I might have to kill my child, a little boy. That's a very human, that's like a human problem. Like, what would you do if you could kill Hitler, kind of thing?
Right. What if you found out Hitler was your son?
Right. And do you believe all this stuff? And what are the risks? Now, Lost Souls could have done that if it had just stayed in Winona Ryder's point of view, but it was fucking all over the place. And so it becomes a story of kind of also about a guy slowly coming to realize, oh shit, I think I am going to be the Antichrist tomorrow at 4:55.
Which then becomes 666.
By the way, why is his...
Oh, come on. Like, that's not the biggest problem in this movie. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry. Why is his car clock the ultimate arbiter of...
Oh, my God. I was going to spare him until it said 666, and then I shot him. Like, What the fuck?
My car clock is never accurate. It's not like they're using the fucking, nuclear clock in Geneva. He's using the clock on his Hyundai or whatever it is.
But it said 666. The devil is coming. Like, oh no. Like, what the fuck? No. Oh,
I mean, so it's not, so you look at it, is the actor named, is it Ben Chaplin or Ben Chaplin?
Ben Chaplin.
Okay. Him I actually kind of liked. And I don't know where he's been. Has he done anything since then?
Murder by Numbers.
Oh, boy.
No.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Oh, no, he was the main character in The Truth About Dogs, Cats and Dogs. That's right.
Fuck, but, man, that's before this.
That's before this. That's before this. So...
Did this movie, destroy his career? Because I like him.
I mean, I guess, because looking at his credits post this movie, I don't know any of these movies, so...
Oh, that's too bad. Meanwhile...
He was in a movie with Nicole Kidman in 2001 called Birthday Girl, but, I mean...
Oh, boy. That doesn't sound promising.
He must be busy because I reached out to his agent and I never heard back from his agent, so he must be busy doing things. Otherwise, why else wouldn't he want to talk about this movie, right? It's not like the movie was terrible.
I don't know. It's hard to tell. Agents are very protective of their clients. Maybe he felt that we would not treat this movie with respect.
Well, I can tell you that if he was on this podcast and I had gotten to talk to him, I might have treated it with a little bit more respect than it's about to get.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
Well, yeah, because then we'd be going, hey, what was your experience on the film? Was it a good experience? Were you confused, frustrated, sad, and demoralized by being a part of this?
All of the above. How can I just put E, all of the above? I will tell you what this movie struck me as when I was watching it. This movie, I found out a better title for this film than Lost Souls. The title for this film should have been End of Dumb. Because it is like End of Days, but not entertaining and really, really, really fucking stupid.
Well, it's almost like a movie that it depends on all of us taking the Bible really seriously. And yes, I know that his character is he's the atheist.
But when does he say he's an atheist?
Well, but isn't he the one? It's sort of, they present him as, evil is a, man-made construct. There is no.
But what does that have to do with atheism? Why? I would not infer you're an atheist by saying evil is a human construct.
But you know what it is. It's like Bible literalism.
Sure.
Everything else, And what it does is, I'll give it this. It's like, okay, they went the one direction you could go, which is, at first, you're sort of afraid of the people who feel like who are believers and are like, oh my God, this thing is really going to happen, but we're with the church and we really believe that the devil is going to become embodied and it's actually happening right now. Okay, so
right.
That's the first part of the movie. Then the twist spoiler alert, I'm going to give it away.
It's outside of the spoiler jurisdiction. It's been 5 years. You can spoil it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so 5 years. Anything after 2005, and we're in fucking 2019.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Anything since 2014 or earlier can be spoiled because you had enough time to watch it.
Right.
And if you watch this movie, why? Like, what were you doing?
Well, but there are people, I mean, this is a genre. The Bible literalism, devil, Jesus.
Sure, End of Days, The Omen, all those things.
You could even say The Exorcist, because it does bring that stuff in. Like there's always that moment where
good God, can you imagine mentioning this film and The Exorcist in the same fucking sentence?
Well, I just did, so I guess
God. It's like mentioning what would West Coast people like In-N-Out and McDonald's in the same sentence. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is just straight up garbage,
Right. But it trades on the modern man. The modern man, let's say, walks around with, well, the Bible's a collection of stories and it's all metaphor, and it, at its best, you take from it messages of being kind to your fellow man and being forgiving, and at its worst, you take from it, I'm going to get on my moral high horse and judge a bunch of other people so I'll make myself feel better.
Sure.
So, there's plenty of both in America. But part of the fun is, what if it's real? And there's been all kinds of stuff. What if the Bible is actually writing, it's not history, but it's prophecy. So the stuff in the Bible didn't already happen, it's gonna happen, it's currently happening, blah, 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 blah. Now, this stuff was much more effective 50 years ago when most Americans had a knowledge of the Bible. I actually think people don't now, because fewer and fewer people go to church, and the Bible is actually not taught in any sort of, Western literature curriculum in any consistent way. So you just have to sort of take it on faith, as it were, that it's like, okay, so the Bible says this thing, and everyone thinks it's bullshit, but what if it's not bullshit?
Right.
So that's what this movie's about, right?
Sure.
So
sure.
Well, so then it's this guy, like, if you had to say there's a main character, I guess it would be Ben Chaplin, and he'd be like, I'm just a guy being... Well, I don't know.
It feels like it at times, right? But then at other times, my thought process jumps to Winona Ryder is clearly like, she's like, if normally with the main character, the film is like 70-30, main character 70, supporting 30. This is like 50-50, which is not a normal thing for this kind of, like, for a horror film especially.
Well, not only that, but you don't know who you don't know as an audience member. And this is a failure of the director and of the script, I think, that they never sort of tell you who to get on board with. Like, we're not really in anyone's mind approaching the story from this point of view. So it's not like, okay, what's the fundamental challenge that Ben Chaplin, like, he faces a plot challenge. Oh shit, I'm the devil. But he pretty quickly gets to a point of, well, okay, then I guess I'm fucked. So, okay. But on the other hand, it's not a story, which I think would have been possibly more interesting if it was really a story from Winona Ryder's point of view, which was like, oh shit, I'm just a normal human being. What am I going to do about the fact that in other words, The Omen. What do I do? Do I kill this guy? So what you could do is just do The Omen, except from an adult male-female point of view. She could fall in love with him. They could have sex. She could begin to think, I can't do this. I love this guy.
Right.
Like, am I really expecting
giving the character some doubt?
Exactly, and making her sane enough and relatable enough that we would then ask ourselves, well, what would I do?
I think you just wrote a better movie. This movie is such a weird way of telling what I would consider to be, and like you've already mentioned multiple times, this is a conventional story that's been told countless times. It's not an original idea by any stretch of the imagination, and yet somehow you take a conventional story that's actually been told. If we think about The Exorcist, it's been told successfully, really successfully, prior to this, and you just complicate it so much that It doesn't make any sense. It's just, it falls completely flat because you can't figure out which character to give a shit about. You can't figure out, honestly, what's even going on half the goddamn time, because most of the time you're watching this movie, it just seems like scenes just happen and nothing is explained.
Well, it's weird because it's like they're placing bets all over the table, and the bets contradict each other. It's like they set her up to look insane. Well, she seems insane, so it's hard
Which makes you question, like, is she actually just a psychotic person who kills some random guy and a bunch of his people?
Well, I think that was one version of the story. One version is she insane, and is she going to kill someone who doesn't deserve to be killed? So that they started kind of feeding that storyline a little bit.
But then they didn't really, like, stick it completely.
But then they get out of that, and then they just go, well, no, now we just have to actually pay off on the plot that we built. So he needs to find out that he actually is the Antichrist. And then it just turns out she's right. So then we just back off her being crazy, and now we're supposed to. And I'm like, well, okay, whatever. Like, if it means the two of them are going to have a relationship, and Ben Chaplin is actually really good. Like when he makes that turn and meets her in the park, and she's on the swing, and he's like, what's happening? Like, what is this? Like he's finally, like, his brain is broken open. I felt for him. I'm like, I'm buying his performance, and maybe we're going down the road of a love story where, again, something is at stake. But then at that point, I think there was only like a half hour left in the movie, and they were just like, you know what, we just have to pay this off. And so they go the plot way, which is, because then I'm thinking, well, okay, let's say he is the Antichrist. What is he giving up? What are his relationships? What's
right.
But then they very quickly just go, oh, don't you get it? Now it's Rosemary's Baby. They were all in on it.
Like literally everyone that you've met up until this point in the movie.
They're a Satanist. And they
it's that like, oh, you know how you feel like everyone's gaslighting you? Oh no, they're actually gaslighting you 100%.
Yeah, and by the way, we did that on Damien. I mean, Barbara Hershey was a character drawn from the Omen mythology, who sort of is in the periphery of Damien's life as this weird sort of Mrs. Robinson kind of quasi-sexual mother-lover character to Damien, who is going to help him assume his role.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
And he's sort of sexually attracted to her, but then hates her because, no, I don't want to be the Antichrist and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, great, but on a TV show you can do that over a length of time. Here it was just it was used as a end of second act plot thing, which is, oh shit, they were all in on it from the beginning. He's doomed. And then you're like, fuck, okay, now he really is doomed. And then you're just like watching stuff play out. You as an audience, you don't really get to participate in this movie at all.
No, not at all. And the other thing with the big twist at the end where it turns out everyone is in on it, they don't give enough weight to that revelation. And then they also don't give enough weight to what's ostensibly the final act that turns his character into the devil. Or the Antichrist. They don't give enough weight to that. And it's like, you're supposed to be worried that by his character doing that, now he has opened himself up to the Antichrist, but they don't give enough weight to it, so you're just like, who gives a shit, he just shot someone. And to me, that's, again, another failure of this film, is it just doesn't seem to have any idea as to how to give events in the film that are supposed to matter, that they've told us are going to matter. They don't give them any weight.
You're 100% correct, and therefore it was a little confusing and therefore underwhelming when he did those murders, It's like, well, wait, does that make him the devil, or is he the devil anyway? And now he's just flailing, and there's no conversation in the car. That there's nothing like, hey, you shouldn't have done that. That was the last straw, or anything.
Like they literally said, if you kill someone, you become the devil. That's what Winona Ryder's character says, and then he does it anyways. It's like you need to give some weight to this scene, because otherwise, like you said, I don't interpret it the right way. Then, if that's the possibility, like we don't interpret it one way. If they're trying to get us to interpret it the way of, no, he becomes the devil because he did that.
Well, exactly, but like we weren't told, like, so if he didn't do that, he would not have been, like.
That's exactly. If he hadn't done it, would he have become the devil? And that's not. They don't address that at all.
No, because everything up to that moment was, well, you're going to become the devil, so you don't really have a choice, and you're fucked. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're in love. Doesn't matter if you've been a decent guy. You're fucked. And then at the 11th, 12th, 13th hour, they go, oh, wait a second. Don't kill anyone, because if you do, then you be like, again, if he didn't do that, if he did not kill those people in that church minutes before the moment of his 33rd birthday, would that have saved him? Like, was she like, oh, I figured it out. Here's all you've got to do. Don't kill anyone for the next 20 minutes.
How did you interpret it?
Well, it was tough. I don't feel we were given the information, so I just sort of feel like those deaths didn't matter. That was him just acting out a very human reaction to a betrayal, and a very human reaction to feeling.
Considering how the guy is now actually his dad.
Right, but it's not like Winona Ryder didn't fall to her knees in the church screaming, "No, you idiot! Now it's impossible! Now I must kill you." They defer and defer and defer, and they still want you to care in the final moment. It's like, oh, what's she going to do? And he's like, oh, hey, the clock changed. I guess I'm fine. And we're supposed to care like, oh, shit, no, don't believe him. He's the devil. Like, they keep changing the story agenda. And that's what you do when you're not clear on what you're doing. And again, it's like I wasn't there when they made this movie, so I don't know who to point the finger at, whether it's the screenwriters or the director. But someone along the line should have said, guys, we keep moving the goalpost every 15 minutes in this movie. The audience is going to check out and just go, well, okay, I don't know what the fuck is going on, so I'm just going to wait for this to end, which is what you and I did.
Well, and the other thing about that is, if you keep not giving the audience stakes, but by not giving them stakes, you just keep... They made it worse and worse towards the end of the film. Like, you're escalating it so much that now we don't even know what the stakes mean. Like, what does it mean? What does it mean now? Like, what does him becoming the devil mean? We don't even know, because they've not been able to explain to us, the audience, at all how the devil even factors into the story of the movie.
Or how it factors into the world, or why.
They've given us no idea.
Yeah, it's like I don't have a rooting interest on anyone's side. I mean, I found myself vaguely rooting for Ben Chaplin because I just found that he was a more credible performer than Winona Ryder, who upon retrospect is the least credible dramatic heroine in the world, Stranger Things included. It's like I can't buy her. I can buy her in Beetlejuice. I don't buy her in this.
Why?
Because she doesn't. First of all, she does not. If you're going to cast someone who's partially insane, they hit the mark. She doesn't come across as as a performer. She does not come across as a genuine sane human being. So that's why you cast her as a person.
Is it her eyes? Is that what it is?
I think it's her eyes, and also her just overall skill level at presenting another point of view. I don't think she has a ton of arrows in her acting quiver, so she does the best she can, but you've got to use that in a particular way. And by the way, there's a lot of actors who don't have it. I mean, Clint Eastwood doesn't have a lot of arrows in his dramatic quiver, but as long as you keep it in that range, he's going to be awesome.
You have to play to the strengths. And that's what this movie is lacking, because if they had played up her character more in that indecisive middle of the road as opposed to staunch Catholic character, I think if they had played up that idea that maybe she is just crazy. If they had played that up more, I think there might have been more success to the film. But again, it's like there's more things wrong with this movie than just the mediocre plot that meanders.
Yeah, you've got it comes down to point of view. Whose point of view are we in? Whose story are we watching? You can go ahead and make her crazy, get us out of her point of view, and just put us in Ben Chaplin's point of view, and just have us go, what if you were just a normal guy and suddenly everything in your world told you were the Antichrist? Now that's tough because, you know, the movie's got to end somehow, and it's going to end with his death. So then you got to put us in her point of view, and that's what they failed to do, is give her a credible point of view that a sane audience member could identify with on any level. You just got to go, here's a woman who's had an experience in her life that makes her feel that, oh, this stuff is real. But you know what? Broom out all of that shit and give us a happy, you know, do it the way, look, when in doubt, do it the way Stephen King would do it. And the way Stephen King would do it is make her a mom with a couple of kids, and she's in the PTA, and she's got a job, and she's totally recognizable, and we love her. And then she gets drawn into this nightmare, kind of like the Dead Zone, where it's like, oh shit, I've got to kill the Antichrist, which is basically what happens in the Dead Zone. And you're like, what would I do? And that's why the Dead Zone is effective, and this isn't. It puts us in a credible, relatable point of view. This was just, hey, isn't religion scary? Let's just freak you out with images of Jesus and apparently water dripping, because there was a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know what the idea was, because, you know, like you mentioned, it's not even like with the water dripping, and which is, I mean, it's not a trope, but it's a setting trope. It's an environmental trope of horror movies. Like,
yeah,
what was the idea behind not, because it doesn't, even to me, it doesn't even feel like they really commit to it being a horror movie. Like, they don't commit to that, like, they don't commit enough to the horror movie ideas. It's just like, oh, but because it's got the devil in it, it's a horror movie, you know, like other, you know, Rosemary's Baby, what have you.
Well, and then, in my opinion, it devolves into a lot of just, like, stupid visual shit. It's funny because, you know, I did look up some reviews of this movie, and it just gives me a laugh because it's all these, you know, movie reviewers, quote unquote, including Ebert, who's like, well, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, it's, you know, visually stunning because of, you know, the director, but the story doesn't hold up. And I'm like, no. Story doesn't hold up.
They're just giving it a pass.
Well, they're giving it a pass.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan. #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
But they're also saying, oh, because it does a lot of weird visual shit that doesn't really add up. It's just, oh, hey, there's a button on my camera that makes things sort of move in this sort of, you know, blur motion. Or there's this thing that I can do that just by using a lot of that stuff, suddenly it's visually interesting. But it's all, I mean, again, when you're watching a movie, this is the sign of a director who doesn't know the story he's telling. So he's just using every visual trick in the book to keep you entertained or interested from 1 second to the next. But it's not in the service of the story. It's just in the service of a music video. What looks cool right now? You know, I was shocked that at no point, you know, doves flew up into the air in, you know, fucking slow motion. It's like having a lot of fisheye lenses on a lot of people doesn't help tell a story. It makes point of view confusing.
Well, and the other thing about that with the fisheye lenses is, I don't know about you, but did this movie look washed out to you?
Well, yes. I mean,
It looks like, I mean, End of Days had a different problem where it's like, it's too dark. But this movie it looks just washed out, like they're under fluorescent lights.
There was clearly like some sort of color palette decision and some sort of like, you know, okay, we're going to, you know, high contrast, you know, grain. decisions being made about, okay, this is going to be the look of the movie, but it's hard to understand. God knows I don't understand it. I'm not a director. I will never be a director because I don't think visually. But I understand academically that you want to be serving the story visually, thematically, in the same way the script does. And I think at a certain point, the director must have realized, okay, the script really doesn't make sense from page one to page last. So I'm just going to have to throw a lot of shit up there and hope no one gets bored, and then it'll be over.
Yeah, there's not like a narrative cohesiveness that I would have expected from something like this.
No. And, look, it's hard to write something that makes sense. And there's a million reasons movies get made, and there were a lot of ideas in this movie, but there may have been two or three too many ideas, so that no single idea got served 100%.
Right.
Look, by the way, I know I sound like a dick, but as a writer, look, I've had movies, and believe me, Mothman got reviews where people were like, this is a bunch of shit, and there's no idea here, and it's just a lot of visual tricks, and Mark Pellington does blah, 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 blah. I didn't happen to feel that way, and, it's impossible for me to say because I was involved in the writing of the movie. It was my movie, so...
Sure. You can't be unbiased.
I cannot be unbiased, and I also cannot be... Yeah, I cannot be fair or objective at all. But I can be objective about movies I didn't do, and I can recognize the problems as you can instinctually when you're watching a movie and an hour goes by and you're like, what the fuck?
Well, and that's the thing about this movie that you're right. I mean, it's an hour and a half long, and I couldn't tell you what happened in the first hour versus the second half hour. It comes to a conclusion that doesn't feel earned, but honestly, I don't even understand how they got there. Because it's so muddled. And look, I mean, the other thing that's kind of crazy about this movie is it was filmed in 98. It was going to be released in 99, but because of shit like End of Days and Stigmata, it got pushed a year, like 6 months later. So on top of that, they knew about stuff like Stigmata and End of Days. And so it feels like if you want to have like a fucking weird triple feature, you could do Stigmata, End of Days, and this movie together, and they're all in the same kind of oeuvre, as they would say.
Right, and they all have to be looked at in terms of the millennium. They all have to be looked at in terms of late 90s paranoia, which you didn't live through the way I lived through it. You're a kid. I was a full-grown married adult with children when people were filling their basements with jugs of water and dehydrated food because of Y2K. And Y2K, which people probably don't even know what I'm talking about anymore, but Y2K was this weird literalization of millennial fears. It's like, on the moment that it goes from 1999 to 2000, somehow it's such a momentous change in our minds, the world's going to come to an end. And then in a weird way, a real-life counterpart to that was created, which was the Y2K phenomenon, which was this weird notion that somehow that all computers we were using were designed with a faulty element, which was going to literally, like, planes were going to fall out of the sky.
Right, wasn't it like because they couldn't count past the number 199 because they hadn't been programmed to go to 2?
Right, so all computers were going to kind of fuck up. And it's really fascinating because it was also at a point where suddenly we were in the moments in the 90s where computers were about to take over our lives, and they were starting to, and this was part of our subconscious fear that then turned into a quote-unquote real thing that then didn't happen. But that didn't stop everyone from being terrified. And so in that decade, and especially those last 5 years, from 95 to 2000, there was a ton of, we're at the end of days. There was the Hale-Bopp comet, that guy with his UFO cult. And
you mean our good friend Marshall Applewhite.
Yes. Very good, sir.
Heaven's Gate, man. You know what they say? White Nikes weren't in fashion for a couple years because of those people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're to blame.
Yeah, I mean, look, y'all would drink the Kool-Aid and you wear Nike sneakers, white Nikes together. Ain't nobody gonna buy white Nikes.
Well, it was a weird time, and even that, look, between you and me, Chris, because we're the only people listening to this right now, it was a weird time in my life. I kind of felt like there was a lot of stuff coming to an end in my life. I mean, I was in a marriage that was coming to an end. There was a lot of this sort of like, wow, we are going over the edge of Niagara Falls. Now, of course, that feeling hasn't stopped. Everyone feels that way now.
Sure.
But at the time, it was a big
this
deal.
was like before it was like within people's quote-unquote control. This was like outside of your ability to control.
Yeah.
Or ability, I guess more ability of someone tangible to blame. This was like an environmental end of the world. It's like, oh, there's a comet coming to hit the Earth, and then at the last second, at the 0 hour, it manages to deflect. Like, we don't have a choice because of an environmental thing, not a thing we can blame someone.
Yeah, and I think a movie, and probably what attracted them, was the notion that, hey, we are coming into the last few years of this century, and these stories are going to resonate with people. And there's a way that the story of Ben Chaplin's character, that's going to resonate because he feels like, shit, I'm doomed and I don't know why, and there's nothing I can do about it. But what's interesting is that, he gets killed and then Winona Ryder just walks away, and you're kind of like, well, wait a second. Now, shouldn't we sort of be on her and her reaction to what she had to do?
You would think, right?
Did she have a reaction that you
She
noticed?
just kind of got out of the car and that was it.
Yeah, so, okay. She's gonna
I guess there was no weight to this decision that you had to make.
Yeah, it was just sort of like, oh, I guess I was right. Plot wise, I win. I had the final chess move. Game over.
Right.
But that's not emotion. Like that didn't make us feel like, oh shit. But now
they didn't make it feel like there's some weight to that decision.
Right, like The Omen, where it's like you really felt that if Gregory Peck, even if he was successful, his entire life would be ruined for the rest of his life because he murdered a child based on what he thought was the right choice.
A child that also just happened to be his own son.
Right, who was his own son, and there's something great about, like in this movie...
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
They flash the clock goes to 666, which basically lets Winona Ryder off the hook.
Right. Yeah, well, again, and that's the other thing that really bugged the shit out of me about this movie is they should have just had her shoot him without this kind of like it's like a tacit agreement that he is the devil. Yeah. Like. It's like a tacit admission that yes, he is the devil, as opposed to just being like, well, she killed him and you just don't know. Instead, it's like, nope, here's this tacit admission. It's 666. He's the devil. Shoot him.
The only thing to me interesting about stories of faith are when decisions have to get made that have real stakes and you don't get a reassurance that you did the right thing.
Right. Exactly, because again, faith is it's a belief in something that, quote unquote, is untangible.
Exactly, and it can never be proven. So the
666 is kind of the that's kind of the problem. Like you show 666, that's an admission that this is not untangible. This is like reality.
Right. That was basically the movie going, well, we're gonna totally let her off the hook.
He is the devil. He is the devil.
Yeah, he wasn't. Like, even if she got arrested, you'd still be like, yeah, but thank God, because she did the right thing. In any story of faith, the only way to do it, in my opinion, is you've got to let people act on faith without ever knowing if they did the right thing. And it's got to be, we've got to be on this side of the line, not on the other side of the line. You can't, that's a cheat. It's basically God going, pull the fucking trigger, Winona.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. It's like Deus Ex Machina, but even worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that I think is the ultimate failing of this movie is if you had just left it, if you had just changed a couple things, you might have left the overall interpretation of the movie up to chance that maybe Winona Ryder's character is just mentally disturbed and Ben Chaplin isn't a actual like vessel for the Antichrist. But no, they just show, yep, she was right. He was the vessel for the Antichrist. He became the Antichrist, and now he's dead. Like, they spelled it all out for you. And they could have taken that direction and made it a compelling and interesting story. But the other problem is, they didn't.
No. And frankly, who cares who's right? I mean, the very notion that someone is going to be proven right or wrong about metaphysical concepts of good or evil is childish.
Right.
So who cares? And by the way, The Exorcist didn't do it. The Exorcist left it a little open and kept us on this side of the veil.
I would say The Exorcist, that's the thing. I would say The Exorcist actually gave you enough verification that it is actually going on because of the eye color change and that shit. But at the same time, they did it the right way. They stuck the landing, so they did it and it worked, as opposed to them doing it and nothing coming of it. They still tell a compelling story with the character being able to like come to terms with the sacrifice. He's sacrificing himself for the good of someone else. But this movie doesn't have any actual emotional stakes, so they couldn't pull off he's actually the devil.
No, in The Exorcist, Father Karen is a flawed flesh and blood human being that we identify with. They don't even make him the main. They make Father Marin the sort of the Indiana Jones.
A perfect fake out, by the way.
Right, but it's like we'll divide the duties. We'll give all the hocus pocus to that guy. But then we'll put a human being in the middle. Somewhere between Ellen Burstyn and Max von Sydow is this guy who is a representative of the Catholic Church, but who is not so sure of anything that he is invulnerable.
Right.
And it allowed us to track his act of faith. And he doesn't know the outcome. Like, we got to stick around after his death. Winona didn't die. She lived. So it's the inverse of The Exorcist.
Oh, it's the inverse of a quality film is what it is. It is an inverse. It is a movie that there's a reason no one's talking about it.
Well, yeah.
It stars John Hurt, of all people. Like, John Hurt. The John Hurt. And
he's cool.
Yeah, and nothing. Like, there's no benefit from having John Hurt in this movie. None.
Yeah, no. Or, I mean, like, I would almost say that Philip Baker Hall's payoff is a little better because you tell me what you think, but for my money, Philip Baker Hall is a guy you just like. And, like, he's almost quasi Walter Matthau. He just looks so real. And you're just like, oh, I like that guy. Oh, yeah, he feels real. I like him. So the trajectory that his character took, there was a fun payoff. It was like, oh, shit, okay, you were wrong to be on his side.
Well, so here's another thing that irked me. They essentially bring up an incest subplot and don't really give it the weight you would expect from an incest subplot.
Well, they just kind of wait.
They just say, you must be the child of incest. And they go, yeah, brother and sister fucking. And it's like, okay, moving on. Like, wait, what? Like, what? When did you just introduce this shit out of nowhere? Like, what the flying fuck?
Well, let me ask you a question because I wasn't clear on this. Was part of the revelation that this was planned? Like, it wasn't just like, oh, I fucked my sister and then, oh, it turned out it's the devil. It was like, no. There was a reason. We all did this. We all read the same book.
The explanation was they've had their 2,000 years. Now it's our turn. So that's the justification. Is that it's their turn? It's the demon's turn to rule the mortal world.
But when Philip Baker Hall had sex with his sister, it was like, okay, it was like Rosemary's Baby. It's like, okay, we are doing this very consciously to
Right, I would assume so. It was to create the Antichrist. And then he had to kill her, too, to make the kid the Antichrist.
Yeah. Sure. It's super familiar. And then the notion is just like, oh, but it'll be great because now we'll be powerful because we're on the devil's side. Which there's always some logic to that. I mean, certainly nowadays. You know, if I just serve the devil hard enough, everything will work out. And it's like,
it's kind of like a proto-Hereditary, because like was in Hereditary too, like that whole let's bring upon the devil, and if we bring him back because we helped bring him back, we'll be at his right side.
Yeah, like we'll be on his good side. We'll be the Death Eaters to forward.
Exactly. Like, you know, we get to do whatever we want because we've aligned ourselves with the devil.
Yeah, don't forget, devil. We were always on your side.
Exactly.
We always every press conference we defended you.
Yeah.
So my question is now, I'm embarrassed because I have not seen Hereditary, which I should have, but
it's overrated.
I don't know. I should probably. Is it worth seeing?
I think it's overrated, but I know a portion of the horror community are very vocal about their love for it, and it's a majority of the horror community. My opinion is kind of in the minority.
Okay, so stepping away from Lost Souls for a second, so what horror movie should we all be seeing? Is it Midsommar, or is it...
I don't know. Midsommar felt just like a shitty Wicker Man knockoff.
Okay, I mean, well, so is it Bird Box? Is it...
God, no. God, no. Again, like... I don't know, like, do you, I mean, are you a fan of the horror genre? You know, you're on a horror episode right now, but are you a fan? I mean, you must be Kolchak, right? Kind of horror adjacent.
I like Kolchak, but weirdly, I'm not a fan of the horror genre. Part of the problem is my wife won't watch them anymore, so I can't. It's very difficult for me, and my youngest son is too young, so it's like, oh God, just in 2 years I can finally show you American Werewolf in London, please.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm kind of jammed up on horror right now. I literally have to be in a hotel alone to watch. I feel I haven't seen It Follows, which I hear is
I don't know. Again, like, I have this kind of weird minority opinion on like It Follows and stuff like that, because I felt like they were just overhyped as like the next big scariest movie since and then it's always scariest movie since The Exorcist. And
you won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output, and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24-related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Like, for me personally, I don't know about you, but I don't particularly find The Exorcist that scary. I feel like calling it a horror movie is, I mean, I've said this before, if you've listened to the Kulturecast before, I have said before, calling The Exorcist a horror movie is ultimately really doing that film a massive disservice.
I totally get that. I see that you could make the argument that it is a supernatural drama.
Right. Because I feel like just calling it a horror movie does just undercuts in a lot of people's minds who aren't in a horror movie. It just completely invalidates like why it's considered a classic, like an important film.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I'm still a guy, like, because of my age and, you know, kind of what I grew up with, I'm always leaning back toward, hey, when can I watch John Carpenter's The Thing?
Right, sure.
When do I get to watch American Werewolf in London? When do I get to watch, you know, even Poltergeist, which at the day I saw it in 1981, I was like, this movie is a fucking tonal mess, and I love it. And my love has only grown. But it's a mess. But I love it. But it's a mess. But I love it.
Poltergeist is, you know, definitely not a Steven Spielberg film.
Oh yeah, God, he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Well, look, and you know, now that Tobe Hooper is the one who's dead, I directed the movie, guys. Like, wait, what? Like, now that Tobe Hooper's dead, I guess I can claim that I directed it. And look, I mean, realistically, Poltergeist, it feels like a scarier version of E.T. Like, and
yeah,
that's
which, I mean, look, I don't know if you're joking or not, but the movie is let's just put it this way. It's overwhelmingly a Steven Spielberg movie.
Oh, no, I'm not joking. I'm being dead serious. Like, I honestly believe now that Tobe Hooper is dead, Steven Spielberg is just like, yep, that's my movie. Like,
well, I mean, and look,
because honestly, it is a Spielberg movie, 100%.
Yes, it is. And he clearly, if he did not literally direct it, his directorial hand is all up its ass.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like Jaws, but with a ghost. Like, that's really what it is. It's not any scarier than Jaws, like, at all.
And by the way, people get pissed off. You realize there are entire Twitter feeds devoted to defending Tobe Hooper as the author of Poltergeist. My feeling is, look, forget everybody, just forget everything. Tobe Hooper made a great movie called Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, like, that movie is better, 10 million times better than Poltergeist. Like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is its own thing. There's nobody else's fingerprints all over it.
Right. So it's not like Tobe Hooper never made a great movie. He made a horror classic.
A horror classic.
Yeah. A subgenre which has less to do with the supernatural and more to do with fucked up human beings. But great. It's a very scary movie, and I give it every last bit of credit that it deserves, and I believe it deserves it, as I believe that Poltergeist deserves credit as, if Steven Spielberg was going to make a horror movie, this is the horror movie he would make.
Right.
A horror movie filled with wonder. I mean, look, we could do an episode comparing, in my opinion, Poltergeist to Close Encounters. I think those two movies are very close.
Very close.
Because they're all about the wonder of the supernatural and the enrapture of the supernatural, rather than the inherent evil of the supernatural, which I don't think gets enough play. I love the notion of movies and books that celebrate the supernatural as a source of wonder, even if it's like somewhat dangerous. It's like, yes, but it is a worthy source of human awe. And it's not just, it's either evil or it's bullshit, but nothing in between. So I give those two movies like my highest ratings because that's something that I really love. But it was not a Tobe Hooper movie. So there you go.
No, it wasn't. And like, there's all these like things about horror movies. Like, that's like, I think that's one of the bigger conversations that's come out recently, is like that aspect of it being such a classic movie. Everyone wants to have their opinion on it, but oh my god, yeah, the horror community is they're a militant bunch sometimes.
They are, and you know what? God bless them. You know, I mean, obviously I have a huge love for any genre fan, and I mean, even when that blade is turned against me, and it has been, it is a worthy blade to die by, because these are people who instinctually, in their souls, understand the value of the genre, and again, in that we are all children of Stephen King, who is the godfather of, hey, horror has a place. And I'm going to fucking prove it to you for the next 50 fucking years. And I think he's had the last laugh, hasn't he?
I would say so, right? I mean, he's, he has, I think he's the most adapted author in history.
Yeah. He just doesn't fucking stop. He loves it. He loves it. Like, I would say, 20 years ago was in a weird way, like the nadir of Stephen King. And it was kind of, at the same time, he had his car, the horrible accident where he was hit by the truck. But that was a point where he'd written a few novels, and it's like, you know what, maybe we're done. Maybe it's over. And then somehow, over the last 20 years, he's like, no, I don't think it is. And he's continued to write. I'm not saying these are his best novels in the last 20 years at all, but he's just said, you know what, I'm just going to fucking stick around. So you just got to deal with me. And it allowed a whole new generation to discover him, and it allowed another generation to grow up and stand up and say, guys, if you like my work, say thank you to Stephen King, because I wouldn't exist without Stephen King. And I'm one of those guys. I certainly do not have a blazing career, but the career I do have is based on the lessons I learned from Stephen King, which is primarily put it on earth, put it with human beings, let us understand the people, and then bring in the scary stuff, because then we'll care, because that's what it's going to feel like for us.
And that's where this movie fails.
No, because
right?
there were no sane people in this movie except for Ben Chaplin, and he was never given to us in the narrative as our sort of standard bearer of normalcy and our eyes in, our way of entering the story going, hey, I'm a normal person like Ben Chaplin. I'm just going to be him. And then all these scary things are going to happen to me.
Right. Let me ask you, final thought. Do you think he actually became the Antichrist at the end of the movie?
Yes.
Right? I mean, there's no other way to interpret it.
The text didn't give me any other thing to think.
Right,
so
yeah.
I can't. What am I supposed to do? All of the plot, all of the mythology, and then the fact that he killed people, it's like, well, there you are. I mean, it would be heretical of me toward the text of the movie to assume any other thing. What it told me was, he's the devil, all this mythology is true, Winona Ryder saved the world, whoop-de-doo.
Well, and that for me is the biggest disappointment, is that you do have a character saving the world, and yeah, so what?
Yeah.
So what? So what would you give this film out of 5?
Oh, out of 5?
Yeah, out of 5. That's the meter we run by here on the Kulturecast. Out of 5.
I would give it a 2 in that, like, it was not. I wouldn't give it a 0. Obviously, I probably wouldn't give any movie a 0 unless it, was a snuff film. And a 1,
I was like, you can't give something a 0 because it at least gets like what? It gets half a point just for putting its name on the paper.
Yeah, like it existed, so it gets a 1.
Exactly.
I give this one a 2 because it had Philip Baker Hall. Like, it had actors that I like, Elias Koteas. It had, I think Ben Chaplin. To me, he's the guy I'd like to see on something. I'd be, he's, the poor man's Matt Dillon. I don't know. I'd watch him again, and there was just, there were moments in the movie where I was like, oh, I think this might be going somewhere, and so in those slight moments, I was intrigued. And then, so I'll give it a 2. There you go.
Yeah, I would give it like, yeah, I mean, like a 2, like you said, like it's, like, I don't know, I'm not going to equivocate myself to Ebert back in the day saying, well, it's a nice film to look at, so 3.5, but, I mean, there is some merit in some of the stuff that happens in the movie, but again, at the end of the day, it's a disappointingly weird movie that takes that for once takes a side on supernatural or psychotic, and it doesn't work. So yeah, like I think a 2 out of 5. Like it takes a stance, but that doesn't do anything.
No, it took a wrong, stupid stance. When you're dealing with giant metaphysical mysteries, and what you decide to do is choose a side and then declare it the winner, that's fucked.
Yeah, you ultimately and realistically discount one entire side of the conversation. like outright. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, and by declaring any winner, you're saying these things can be definitively sorted by human beings, and that's no fun.
Right, because it's the metaphysical, it's the holy, the religious, and human beings should not have any bearing on that.
No, you've got to only tell the story from a human's point of view, and a human ain't ever going to know for sure, and that's it.
Right, exactly. So, let's take a break, and we'll play a preview for the next Kulturecast.
So, Fitz, I think we should get together.
No. Out by 16 or dead in the scene, but together forever.
United against life as we know it. Let's get out of here.
What was it?
Big dog, maybe?
Whoa. Whoa? That's it? Whoa?
Think you see werewolves a lot?
Did I change last night? Howl at the moon?
How do you feel?
Wicked. This is a very confusing time for your sister. Boys, their body, trying to fit in.
Hey, take it easy. Who's the guy?
I think she's pretty. If I wasn't here, would you eat her?
Poor Bee. I'm growing up, and obviously you're not.
Oh my god.
You think I want to go back to being nobody? You're so dead. They're just being normal teenage girls.
I'm not dying in this room with you! I'm not dying!
I think she's gone.
You know, we're almost not even related anymore.
That's right. On the next Kulturecast, we're going to be talking about Ginger Snaps. It's another horror movie from 2000, and it's a allegory for becoming a woman.
Dude, you didn't tell me you were going to do Ginger Snaps. I know John liked it. I love Ginger Snaps.
Oh my god. Oh, I got you on the... but here's the thing. My best friend Jess Byard is going to be on that podcast, and you know what she is that you aren't? She's a woman. She's a woman, so...
She's already more qualified to talk about it than I am.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, you have the connections, but she's the one who this film is not exactly made for, but should be able to tell me more about it than I, as a man, could ever understand.
Well, listen, I will be listening and just having the time of my life, so I can't wait for that episode. But I will say that John, I do love the movie. John Fawcett worked on a show, my first show, Miracles, back in 2002, and then just last year he was on Titan season 1. So a lot of John Fawcett in my life over the years.
Who's following who? Are you following him, or is he following you?
I don't know, but he's a nice guy. I almost bet if you could track him down one day, he'd hop on the phone with you. He'd love it. I'll tell him to. I'll say, yeah, you can talk to Chris. He won't be mean to you.
You've got a week because the episode records next week. So Richard, if you make that happen, then now you've put that out into the universe, man. You can't. You put it out there.
You mean I have to write an awkwardly worded email right now? Okay.
Excuse me. I'd like to let you know about this fucking Kolchak Tapes asshole who... He's really mean all the time. Oh, jeez. And don't listen to the Lost Souls podcast because he definitely pulled no punches with that movie. I hope you don't know Janusz Kaminski. Oh, God.
Hey, dear Mr. Fawcett, it's Richard Hatem. I think you remember me from a year ago.
I'm that guy. I'm that one guy. Oh, God. Speaking of your line of work, where can people find you, Richard?
Okay. You can find me on Twitter at Richard Hatem. Look me up on IMDb, Richard Hatem. I wrote Mothman, so you can, if you take that way in, you can see everything I've ever done. I worked on Supernatural. I worked on Grimm. Now I'm working on Titans. Hopefully in the next couple of years, there'll be some stuff not in the horror genre with my name attached. Just for, a breath of fresh air. But anyway, check me out. And if you want to get in touch, just hit me up on Twitter and say, hey, I think you're a total asshole. I can't wait to hear.
Because that's what people do to me, and it seems to work. So, they're not wrong. Oh, no. You can follow me on Twitter at casualty_Chris. Kulturecast.com is where you can find more episodes of this podcast. Like Richard mentioned, like we've talked about now multiple times on this podcast, I am the co-host of a podcast called The Kolchak Tapes, and I do that podcast with my good friend, Mr. Mike White of the Projection Booth of Pro Boothgist on Twitter, so you can check him out there. You can check that podcast out. Richard's been on there a couple times. I do a podcast about Tales from the Crypt. That's Chronicles from the Crypt. And I also do a podcast called The One Season Show, where we talk about shows that only lasted one season. If I forgot any podcasts, I did. Dreams for Sale, which is a Twilight Zone 1985 podcast. And now I think I've covered all the bases for the things that I need to play. Yeah, right. Just like podcast after podcast, and one more podcast, and two more podcasts. Big thanks to you, Richard, for watching this. It was not an easy watch, obviously, and for joining me.
My pleasure. Whenever you put out the call, I will always answer, Chris.
Well, and see, that's the thing. That's the kind of enthusiasm that I like, because, I've had people that I've asked, they're like, I don't like that movie. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but that's what I asked you to be on. Like, if you don't like it, then I guess offer rescinded. So if I send it out and I say, hey, you want to do this, and you say, and your predilection is yes, then that's 2 thumbs up in my book.
No, that's what makes it fun. It's like cinematic Russian roulette. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you missed Ginger Snaps by 1 week. That's just the way of the world.
All right.
Boy.
Let me get to work on that email.
And make sure to check out the next episode.